So Sunday morning, we're a couple weeks in and wanted to give an update on where I was with stuff. So on the back, I've got oodles of fairing compound. It's a sloppy job. I know it's sloppy. It is what it is. I'm not a pro, but it's going to sand off real nice. So I ended up getting an angle grinder. I got a Porter cable angle grinder with a 80 grit DeWalt pad sanding disc, and that thing is amazing. So it took me about 2 hours with my orbital sander, my Makita orbital sander with 80 grit to sand all the paint off the back on the port or the starboard side. The port side took me 20 minutes with the angle grinder. The only problem is that the angle grinder left a lot of gouges. So not great with using it. And even when I did figure it out, it was still leaving a lot of deep marks. So trade-off is really fast to strip, lots of work following up. You gotta spread the compound, then you gotta sand it down. So I really don't know. I think the sanding will go pretty quick. That orbital sander tears through the fairing compound pretty damn quick. So probably gonna be a toss-up, maybe save a little bit of time. I ended up doing some fairing around the side here, and then up top where I drilled through the cap, you can see that there's a bunch of goop in there. It's this stuff. So marine structural filler. I went to West Marine yesterday and was talking to a guy. If you're in Tampa and you go to West Marine Tampa, talk to Sam. Dude has a wealth of knowledge. So I ended up glassing with chop strand, building up the center of the transom for the cap. I wanted the center to be really strong, just primarily because some of this delamination concerns, primarily because I really don't know what was used to begin with. So from the factory back in 1960. So it could have just been fairing compound for all I know. It could have been some kind of a mix. I really couldn't tell when I pulled the cap off. So we're gonna do this right, and I layered it up. I took about 20 layers of glass. I don't know why, probably because I'm still a newbie, but yeah, it took a lot. So what I'm gonna do is, since this is all chop strand, I'm gonna grind this down, grind the edges down, and then I'm gonna take some regular mat, some biaxial mat, and I'm gonna throw that over top. I'm gonna put 2 layers over top of it. It's going to build it up a little bit bigger than it needs to be, but again, I'm not that concerned about it because the stronger it is, the better. So I'm probably going to hit this with a sander to sand down the mat, try and get it down to you know, the original level, and then throw the biaxial over it after I clean it up. But that's the plan. And then the structural stuff, when I had my risers done, you know, I remember I had in one of the previous videos I had a little dam built up here to pour the rest of the RJ, and then I had that gap up at the top, and I used fairing. I used regular epoxy with some fairing compound in it, and it filled it right up. Worked like a dream. So it's just there to take up the space. It's non-structural. So yeah, the RJ comes up to about right here, so you got about 1 inch of fairing up underneath, and then there's some wood in the top. So big mix of material. Anyways, yeah, this structural stuff, man, it went in there like a dream. It's a little goopy right at first, but if you wait a minute or two, until it starts to harden, if you have a quick area to apply it to, you can get going right with it. And it's only been on there for a couple of minutes, and it's already tacked up. Now this side over here is hard as a rock. I mean, this stuff it's been 20 minutes. It sets up damn quick. It's phenomenal stuff. That's going to save me an incredible amount of time, and that's what Sam, you know, put me onto. Not for that fix, but for this guy down here. So what had ended up happening, and I'll try and get up underneath here. What ended up happening was when I was sanding, I found a crack that I put in the hull. And from one of the previous videos, you can see some light coming through there where I thought I had a hole. Well, I created a crack. This is old fiberglass, 60 years old. You know, it wasn't well taken care of for the majority of its life, so I'm not surprised that there was a crack that opened up. Well, that was a big problem because this is below waterline, and I had no idea how to fix it. I could not get any kind of fiberglass mat to stick because you have to wrap it around and stick it to both sides to build that up. So what I ended up doing was putting some fairing compound on it. I found out that was a bad idea after I did it. There was a hole that opened up when I ground out the crack. I mean, I went about 2 inches out from the crack on each side. Like you're supposed to go 3, but there wasn't enough material there to go 3 all the way around. So I went 2, ground that down, basically created kind of an oval in here of negative space. I'm sorry about that. So right in here I created like an oval basically on this side and then on this side over here. So what that did was opened up the hole that created the crack a little bit more. So I filled that up with some fairing compound. That's just taking, you know, it's filling a void back there basically. So that's not going to be terrible. From everybody I've talked to, that's not going to be terrible. But building up the structure on the outside was a real problem. So like I said, I talked to Sam, great guy, and he turned me on to the structural compound. Now, this is reinforced with long strand fiber. It's a very fast hardening epoxy resin, and use a cream hardener with it. And it works amazing. The stuff goes on. You know, you only have a couple of minutes to work with it, but you goop it on, and then you take a grinder or a sander to it. I'm going to use my orbital sander again, and you smooth it out and you start shaping it. And then any little divots and stuff that isn't exactly perfect, you throw some fairing compound on it and call it a day. So this should take care of the structure on the bottom. It's wrapped around, everything's, you know, like I said, fiber reinforced. That should take care of the problem on the bottom of the boat. Now, given again that it is an old boat, I'm going to keep an eye on it. Every time I pull it out and put it on the lift and it comes out of the water, I'm going to get back there and take a look at it, see if I can see any cracks, any stresses, anything like that. But I'm crossing my fingers and hoping for the best here that that's going to fix the problem. So this stuff is already set up, but my beautiful girlfriend has her ride freshly washed right next to my garage, so I can't do any sanding until she leaves. So what I'm going to do is start attacking the bilge, and I wanted to show this off a little bit. I'm using Proline 4800 marine paint. It is a polyurethane. I used it on my floors. Nothing sticks to it. Not paint, not oil, not dirt, not spider poop, nothing. Nothing sticks to it. So the bilge down here was starting to show a lot of age. There was even some fibers coming up through the bottom of the, you know, through the first layer of fiberglass here. That's a warning sign for anybody. It was only happening in a couple of spots. I threw some resin over top of it just to reinforce it and let that dry. And then I'm starting to throw this paint over it. I'm going to put 2 layers of this paint on. I did 3 for my floors because they're high traffic, but I'm only going to do 2 for the bilge. It's really all it needs. It's a lot of work, and that should protect the bilge for many, many years to come. I'm really, really pleased with that. The only thing that I can't get into is the duck pond up underneath. And you can see that there is no access there. Now I could get up underneath there and cut an access panel in it or cut it all out together, but then I'm looking at a ton of more fiberglass work, and I don't want to do that. So rolling the dice with what's up underneath, but since the majority of the water always sits towards the back, has historically in this boat, the lift is angled up, there should be no water, nothing collecting up under that duck pond, so I'm going to roll the dice with that one. You know, if you have the means and you know about fiberglass and stuff, I would highly recommend, you know, pulling that out of there and maybe doing the same thing up underneath. But, you know, I think we'll be in good shape. So yeah, it's coming along. I'm looking at Tuesday, Wednesday, you know, 3 days from now to be wrapped up with this guy. So hopefully I'll have the controls on, new engine on, showing it off pretty soon. Cheers.